Welcome to Talk Purpose and Truth with Eden and Kim, shifting you into higher consciousness, the show that elevates, uplifts, and encourages listeners to grow, heal, awaken, and evolve. Eden and Kim include bold topics, special interviews with inspiring guests, intuitive readings, channeled messages from beyond, including celebrities, hot topics to expand your awareness, and time for questions from the audience. Tune in for unprecedented truth, authenticity, on-purpose discussions, and magical moments.
Is the perfect year for her. It's meant to be very serendipitous, and we're having her on as part 1 and part 2 because there's just so much extensive content and great things to discuss. Certified life coach, fulfilling a mission to assist in planetary acceleration of consciousness evolution. One of Instagram's and YouTube's popular intuitives with thousands of global followers and subscribers. She offers one-of-a-kind proprietary learning events designed to support others in claiming their spiritual sovereignty and to step into their true power as creator beings. Glacia is dedicated to aiding others in connecting to their higher selves and stepping into their true path. She started studying natural healing and metaphysical arts at age 12 and began formal professional training in a variety of transformational consciousness techniques in 2007. She specializes in healing current and past life trauma, as well as ancestral trauma and collective limitation patterns passed through the generations. Her ability to connect with transcendent universal consciousness, as well as accessing the higher self of others, brings immediate revelational awareness and solutions to long-standing issues. She teaches others how to tune into and progress towards their soul's greatest divinity expression. So we're very excited to have Glacia Rain on, and I know that before she actually steps in, I know that Eden, you did a session with her, right? And we were introduced to her videos, and we were very impressed by her first, and then you hired her for a session.
Right, because, to be honest, you and I have been going through our own personal growth, ascension process for a long time. And her videos have helped, at least they've helped me a lot with understanding what we're going through, what I'm going through.
Right.
Yes. So I hope she's going to explain a little bit about that today too. But yes, so I was so happy to see that she does personal sessions, one-on-one sessions. So I had one with her a couple weeks ago. It was so enlightening. And this lovely lady, and I have to say that you might have heard this before, but Kim and I agreed that you look like identical to Maggie Gyllenhaal. You've heard that?
It's a compliment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like your doppelganger. Yes. So welcome, Glacia.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. We are happy to have you.
Yeah.
So
you do some very powerful and transformational work in the world, which is even extra needed right now, as we all know. How did you get started, and what is your big why and your purpose for doing this?
Well, I got started because I needed so much work on myself. Being an indigo and starseed, I was a wreck. So I really had to look at different ways to heal myself. I knew that I didn't feel okay, and I knew that I needed to find something that would help me feel okay. So I started really studying a lot of different healing modalities and just stacking training after training after training on top of each other. But really, I got started when I was 12. I bought a book on how to develop your psychic skills. And to me, I had already known before that, but I was so excited about that. And that really opened the door for me that area of life was very real. And before that, I had been told magic isn't real, those things aren't real. And so that's what really got me started. Yeah. And why I do it, I love humanity. I love the planet, the plants, the animals, everything here. And I can't stand suffering. For me, if I see suffering, I am not a person to stand by. So I am figuring out ways to keep supporting people and help end the suffering or minimize it at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Aw, I love your why. That's so awesome. Do you feel like you knew, I think both Eden and I have talked to each other about having different experiences that even match, some of them even match when we were young. But I don't think I even knew, like, I started doing readings on the side for fun. I thought they were just for, not a career. Now 17 years ago, but I didn't know it was going to be a career. Do you feel like you kind of had a feeling and knew, or was it more just like, oh, this is intriguing?
Yeah, it was intriguing. I had no idea I was going to be doing this.
You had no idea you were this good at it. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're magical.
Right.
Okay, so in the spiritual world, a lot of us have been talking about the ascension and residing in the 5D versus the 3D. Can you explain this in like a way that everybody, the audience, can all understand, so that everybody can be more clear and familiar with that concept, and just have a lot of more clarity around it?
Yeah. So when we're transcending the 3D and moving into the 5D, it's really all about vibrational expression. That's the difference between dimensions. So the people who are still operating at 3D are starting to struggle because the 3D isn't really supported in the grid systems anymore.
That's why what happened the other day with Congress and the chaos.
Yeah.
Does that explain that?
You're going to see a lot of that.
Okay.
In the old
chaos.
Yeah. So you'll see things, news reports coming out before the incident supposedly happens. That's starting to happen. I've heard multiple accounts of that recently. So the beings that are really trying to uphold this lower reality are losing their grasp on it. So you're seeing glitches in it everywhere. So the old though is actually unplugged. It's only being powered by people's agreement to it. So using the old grid, if everyone stopped buying into the beliefs of limitation and that there's somebody that can dominate you and have the right to, then this grid would completely collapse and everything will change a lot faster. So when we're talking about 5D, it's really, we're staying in the same location. They look the same, but they feel very different.
Yeah.
Can you go into, I know that when Jeff Fasano was on and he channeled Archangel Michael, he went into it a little bit, but can you just, for some of the listeners that aren't clear, can you explain what is 3D and what is 5D and how there is that shift? Like, you did explain a shift, but like how, when you define it, it kind of is starting to shift into a deeper awareness and consciousness into the 5D.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, and with the 5D, though, we're actually not even settling on the 5D. So it's 3D or multidimensional. When we're connecting into our multidimensional template, we all exist, humans exist as 12-strand DNA beings, which gives us access to 12 different levels of awareness. So we have the 12 dimensions that we're existing in, right? So each strand of DNA that's activated, and this is spiritual DNA I'm talking about, when that's activated, your vibrational expression changes, and then you start to align with the higher vibration. So you still have experiences with people in the 3D, and you can have experiences with people who are 12D consciousness. So we're starting to have a really mixed experience. The difference between 3D and being multidimensional is the perception of disempowerment. So in the 3D, people take on a very strong victim perspective. 5D, you recognize that you're creating this. You're creating. Nothing is happening to you by accident. It's all by vibrational alignment. In 3D, it's confusing. You don't have access to why it happened because the 3D is so much slower from putting the energy out there to receiving it back. In the multi-grid, it moves up. The higher you go, the faster it comes in.
Got it. That really helps a lot. Like, because I just think it becomes, it becomes very deep for a lot of people. And so when you just explained it a lot clearer to where it's very helpful, and it helps me too, because sometimes it gets the best of me because I tend to start going overboard deep, and then I'm like, ooh, okay, let's just start, simple and work your way up. So thank you for that.
And then there's also just a question that I just came up with too, is the question of how do people uh, reside in the fifth and beyond and be multi-dimensional, but also coexist with the 3D-ers.
That would be dropping judgments about right or wrong. No, 3D is wrong for being there. Nobody's wrong.
Yes.
For anything that they're doing right now. It's all experience. And then I actually forgot what you just asked me.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted to know how we coexist with.
Yeah. Okay. So.
It's like we're losing friends, or because we're changing, we're shifting, but some of the other people aren't.
Yeah.
And I know that's happening a lot.
Yes, it really is. And
yes,
whenever you're shifting like this, you tend to detach from the people who are holding the lower reality in place, because it actually becomes almost painful for you when you see it from a higher level. It can become almost painful or hard to be around a person when you're trying to transition out of that old way of being. So there's a lot of stepping back, isolating self, getting clear about how they're doing what they're doing. So in the multidimensional living, you're taking accountability for everything coming into your experience. In the 3D, you're not. So when you're maintaining that higher vibration, you have to recognize that creator, co-creator power within you. And then instead of saying, this is happening to me, asking, how am I doing this? How am I creating this? And then really not having any judgments about anybody else's path. And that one is tricky, because a lot of us have ego distortions that either force us into judging somebody else as right or wrong for where they're at, or judging us for where we're at.
Mm-hmm. And do you believe, like some people believe that, or we have heard from some, that the 3D eventually will destroy themselves, or fall away, or just kind of crumble into misery? Do you feel like that's true?
Yeah, I see it folding in on itself. Just like anything that is not sustained longer, it eventually
Right. That makes sense.
So is that part of what COVID is here to do?
COVID, in my opinion, is a big distraction from the ascension process, because it puts you, when you're in a state of fear about anything at all, you're not expanding in consciousness. So if you're afraid of the person not wearing a mask near you or something like that, or afraid of going to the grocery store or anything like that, you start to fear your fellow, human beings. Then you start to be in a state of stress, and your consciousness expansion comes to a screeching halt, and you drop down into the lower chakras, into that survival mode, and often fight or flight.
Yeah.
But do you feel there's a difference? Like, I believe there's a difference because I personally have known so many people who have gotten it, and actually a few people that are pretty enlightened people. I just feel there's a difference between being fearful and just being like taking cautious action, like responsible action.
Yeah, which is, and COVID is actually serving to really awaken people to the need to understand their own bodies and to take their own health into their own hands, instead of placing it in the hands of people that may not have their best interests,
Right. Well, and I find it interesting, because it's forcing, wearing masks is forcing people to look each other in the eyes more, and smile with their eyes, and use their eyes for emotion. And so it's interesting, because sometimes people will just, like, I guess you could wear your sunglasses, but it really just puts a more emotional, like, impact or energy on eyes.
Yeah, and with anything, you can have that silver lining, like with COVID, and being able to connect through the eyes. It's a beautiful thing. That's the soul connecting right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, right.
So, sometimes we're afraid to look at each other, though. People they avoid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For more information on Eden, go to edensustin.com. For more information on Kim, go to kimlifecoach.com. Make sure to follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Talk Purpose and Truth.